Okay, so we're going to get started. So we're starting off with the...
Can't hear you in the back.
Huh?
Can't hear you in the back.
That's too bad.
Maybe people shut up.
So we're starting with the position for president. We have one person running for president. Stephanie is going to begin. So she has approximately 5 minutes to deliver a speech to you. After that, we'll open it up to questions. So whenever you're ready, Steph.
Sure. Oh, yes. Alright, so first I'm going to apologize. My voice is a little bit, I've been sick for a couple of days. So if in the back you guys have a couple of issues hearing me, just let me know. But I'm just going to ask that you keep it quiet in the back. I'm just hoping my voice holds out for 15 minutes. So hi everybody. For those of you guys who don't know me, my name's Steph Lawrence and I'm running for president. But I hope that all of you guys do know who I am because I've had the pleasure and the honor to serve as this year's CéTSC president thanks to all of you who voted me in last year. I don't want to just lay out my platform like point for point because it's going to be available for the next 3 days. It'll be online, it'll be on Facebook, and it'll be printed out at the voting booth. But there's two main things that I want to talk to you guys about tonight that kind of are the foundation for what my platform is. So if you guys do go and read it, you'll have a little bit of context behind all of the different points. So the first is the biggest pitfall per se of what I saw for the last little bit of my term as president now. And that is, unfortunately, the transition period. So I know a lot of you guys in this room have been involved, whether it's with clubs here or in anything, and I know that you guys can all understand the inevitable unfortunateness of transition time. It's just a fact of the matter that you don't step into a role knowing exactly what you're doing if it's your first time doing it, and unfortunately I experienced that as president. So although I came into my first term with this mandate that I really wanted to accomplish, and I knew I would need the time to do it, and I was all excited to do it, it took me, I'm going to say, probably about 6 months to really learn my boundaries and to really learn what my limits were. And unfortunately, in that time, there was a lot of different things that I'm looking back now that I really could have done that I had the ability to do that I didn't because I didn't know that I was able to push my limits that far. Now, knowing that I do have that ability, going into the next term, should I be so lucky, you guys have that decision, I know that there's things that I can do for the school and boundaries that I can push that I didn't know last year, but I do know that I can do this year that will really better our school for all of you at the end of the day. Now the second thing revolves around kind of the overarching theme of my mandate, which is kind of very reflective of what my mandate was last year. And that is the holes that I still see that exist in today's role as CéTSC president and in the foundational blocks and everything. So right in my platform point it says, you can't build a house without a strong foundation. And unfortunately, what I have seen with my term so far as CéTSC president is that we do have a very outdated, a little bit inconsistent, a little bit irrelevant foundation. So what that means is our policies, our guidelines, our procedures, and things like that. Now I know there's, in the future, I'm hoping that there's a presidential candidate that can stand up in front of you and say, I want to implement this great event, or I want to do this big thing for all of you guys. And I'm standing up here and I'm saying it's a little bit boring, but what I want to do is I want to be able to fix those policies and procedures and guidelines, but realistically, no big events and no big things can happen until that foundation is fixed. So it's boring, but I want you guys to understand that I actually do enjoy it, and I do want to fix it for all of you. So that's kind of where I'm coming from with a lot of those points in my platform. Policies, guidelines, all that procedural stuff, that when it is fixed, it will allow the future of Telford to build upon that and grow to be the best school and the school that's amazing and one of the best Canadian business schools, because I know that's what we can be. My passion for CéTSC is not burnt out. It gets stronger every single day. I learn every single day. I'm growing every day. I love everybody that I work with. I'm so excited to see all the new faces that Telford has to bring next year. I'm sad to see some of you guys that are going away, but I'm hoping that you guys will really leave the legacy in the hands of those students by voting me in as president. I know what's going on, and please let me fulfill the mandate that you guys voted me in for last year. I'm going to need another year for it, so please just give me those extra 365 days. Thank you. And if you have any questions, now's the time. Anyway.
Questions?
I can explain any aspects of my platform.
Why do you need 2 years?
Pardon me?
Why do you need 2 years?
That's a good question. I guess the biggest reason is that the main aspects of my platform from last year, I'm just simply unable to fill in 365 days just based on the fact that I'm relying on other people for information and such. Not saying that it's like I could just get it done in 365 days if it was all up to me, but a lot of the things that I'm doing require me to reach out to other people, get information from other people, attend meetings and such, and that simply just takes time. So although in a perfect world this time last year, where I saw myself right now was having everything accomplished, it's just not feasible to do everything that I'm trying to do in 1 year. I require a lot of information from other sources that takes time to get, and of course, as always, I'm running into roadblocks along the way that I never foresaw. So as I'm kind of overcoming those, it's just adding extra time onto my game plan.
Another question?
You say that you need 2 years to accomplish what you have, but how can you help the people that are coming in that are going to do, like, do you see taking it 3 years, do you see taking it 4 years? Or do you think that the person that's going to come in is just going to do something completely different?
Like after me?
Yeah.
So the idea is that if I get these kind of foundational elements accomplished during my term, which I think another year will allow me to complete, so essentially it's just like our basic policies, procedures, guidelines, and things like that, then regardless of what my successor does, whether it's continue on fixing and polishing up those procedures and guidelines, or deciding they want to come in and create a brand new event, the idea is just to create a building block for whatever the person is, whoever it may be, whatever their scope and their mandate and their vision is, that I'm giving them those building blocks to be able to do that. So it's not one of those transitions where they can either take what I'm doing and go the same way or go another way. It's more that I'm helping to build up for the future, regardless of what it may be.
Mo, I see your hand.
I mean, there's flaws in every system, but from your end, what have you accomplished this year that can push us, that can really convince us that we should elect you this year?
And that's where the tough part comes in, and I was just waiting for someone to ask that. So it's really hard to put, to tangibly show you guys what I've been doing, because a lot, like I could show you my emails, I guess, like if you want to bring those up, but a lot of those are confidential. That was a joke. But there's not really much tangible stuff that I can show you right now that I've done, because it is a lot of information gathering and learning on my part legally what I can do as president and how to restructure those guidelines, because guidelines and policies and procedures are very like behind the, you don't see them and such, it's just what other things are built off of. But one thing that I do want you guys to know that is tangible, that you can take away from this year that I've been working on, I've done, and it's coming into play, is the competition club, which I guess it's no surprise. It's going to be called the TSMC, Telfer School of Management Competitions. It's not the best name, but overarchingly it is the best. So for those of you who don't know, essentially what happens is we're bringing together JDC, JDCC, HMOF, and STEMPO, so our 5 main competitions. And instead of having them in different, like running their own, running as their own bodies, essentially, we're bringing them together into one club that's going to replace JDC. It's going to be called TSMC. And it'll allow us to build Telfer back to the school that it was years ago when we were winning 14 years in a row in all the different competitions, because we're going to have resources that are going to be shared between the competitions. There won't be any more inter-school conflict. It'll all be Telfer building itself up to go out into the world and compete and be the best that we can be. So that's probably the biggest tangible thing. If you take a look at my platform, I made a little infographic of some of the biggest things, and like obviously with 101 Week and Grad Ball and Club Scholar coming up, all the different things that the president's required to do, those are all accomplished or in the works. Yep.
So seeing as your platform was pretty similar in what you wanted to accomplish last year, and you thought that you could accomplish it within 1 year, and then you said that there was stuff that came up that you couldn't anticipate. So how do you know that this year you would still only have 1 year? How can you be certain that this year you still only have 1 year, that you can still accomplish all of what you've been planning if it took an extra year than you thought this time?
Great question. The best answer, I guess, would be to relate back to what I was talking about before about that transition period. I expected there would be a transition period where I would kind of learn all the things that I didn't know going into the role, but I did not expect it to be as long as it was. And like I said, I'm still learning every single day. So I think at this point, I can confidently tell you that I have a much better idea of not only what I'm trying to do. At the time, it was kind of a vision of like, this is what I want to get done. I'm not sure how to do it. Now I know how to do what I want to accomplish and who the important contacts are and what the process is for doing that. So I can confidently tell you that I believe that I have a much better idea and that 365 days will be more than enough time for me to accomplish those objectives. So it'll leave me a little bit of leeway, and at the end of the day, the great part about what I'm doing is that it can be left off for the next person to continue with, should they do so. Go ahead.
I guess. So it sounds like you're going to make like big changes this year coming into the role, and that you want to like improve the school. But why decide on kind of a big revamp and doing it all at once rather than kind of incremental steps to see how it goes? And like having said that, there was no AGM, so essentially there were no new decisions made, and we made no changes to years prior. So why not use this year's AGM as an opportunity to introduce kind of interim steps to get us halfway there?
That's what it will be. So the idea is that there will be an AGM this year, and then I would have another AGM during my term. So there's kind of the incrementals. I don't want to just go into an AGM and be like, the whole school is changing, like this is what's going to happen, and get everyone to vote on it, because that's just too much for everyone to comprehend, and it's too much of a one-sided opinion on what things should be. So the plan is that this year there will be certain steps put into place that will kind of guide us in the right direction, and by next year, not only will it just be another AGM where it's like, this is what else I want to accomplish, but I plan to have like kind of info sessions along the way that's like, in terms of like clubs, and like this is all the information about what's changing about clubs. In terms of finances, this is what's changing about finances. In terms of membership, this is blah, blah, blah. So things like that, there will be info sessions so that people don't have to go into a 7-hour AGM and just kind of like hope that they understand it. I plan to give people the preparation to not just make those changes all at once, but to know what's going on and things like that.
Just high level, sorry.
Yeah.
What are those steps? Like what are the big high level this year? And when are you planning on the AGM for this year?
That's really difficult because, like, I mean, I could bring out my booklet of stuff, but a big one is the finances, obviously. I think something that everybody in this room should understand is that when looking at our school compared to other schools in Canada, business schools specifically, we are considered a large school with our membership base, with things that we accomplish with having 13 clubs. It's amazing things that we do, but we have a levy fee, which this might get a little bit technical, so if you don't understand it, feel free to come and ask me after. But we have a levy fee of $11 per student per semester. What that means is we get a total of however much that is per year. Kurt should know, wherever he is. Thank you. That's finance. But that amount, in comparison to every other school who is considered a large school in Canada, is minuscule. Like the next lowest school that's considered a large business school in Canada is making $21 per head per semester. That's a massive, massive gap. And the amount of things that we could do with that extra money is like immense. Just think, if anyone here with a club, just imagine you guys just had like you're getting $700 per levy check, imagine you were getting double that. Like imagine the extra things you could do. So one of the biggest overarching points is finances. Another thing is figuring out the membership base. That's really technical, so if we want to talk about that after, I don't want to get into that now because it'll waste time. It's a lot of background information, so whoever is interested, feel free to message me after, but lots of background information that won't fit into this session. Membership base, finances, a lot of policies and regulations regarding clubs. There's a lot of inter-club conflict that occurs year after year after year, and there's just no policies for it, so they need to be implemented. Things like club reviews and things like that. So there's a whole bunch of different steps. Even elections, like there's things missing right now that are regarding elections, so there will be an election session. So those are kind of overarching things. If you look at our constitution right now, there's a lot of different kind of overarching topics, and they'll be mostly on those.
All right, so we had Allie, then Mo, if you still have your question, then Kim.
So you said in your platform that transition was probably the biggest challenge that you faced this year, and that it did take you 6 months to understand your role. So you are overseeing 13, 14 different clubs, and I'm wondering what your plan is to ensure that this isn't a challenge for all the other clubs so that everyone else isn't having to run for 2 years to accomplish what they want to accomplish.
And that's a great question because unfortunately it is, meeting with and talking to people for all the years that I've been involved, it's an issue from a director role all the way up to a presidential role. Everybody has issues with transition. So from a council perspective, there's only so much that we want to impose on the clubs because one of the biggest things that we're lucky to have at the Telfair School of Management is the leeway to do what we want to do. It's amazing to talk to schools, other schools that have to ask risk management whenever they want to do anything. It's amazing how much you guys can do with like govern yourselves and things like that. So what council imposes on you guys, we try to keep to a minimum. But within those club policies I was talking about, something that we discussed this year that I'm interested in bringing in next year is a very basic skeletal transition document that every position has to fill out. That's basically just like a timeline of the year, important contacts, and like a section for like notes on events and things like that. It's very different for every role, for every club, so it's hard to mandate something on everybody. So something very skeletal and brief that we can mandate to everybody to at least just have something to go off of. I would be interested in putting in the club policies, and I think a lot of other people are interested in that as well, based on the feedback I've got throughout my year so far. So that's, I guess, the best answer to your question, is that there will be something, but it's very difficult to really put too much detail into that because of the differences in every role and everything.
Do you think if you fill out a form like that, that the next president after you will be able to accomplish things in 1 year?
For a president, like my role specifically, personally what I'm doing is I'm going to make a massive transition document. So something that I think CéTSC really prides itself on, it can always get better, but we are very good at having transition documents. So I can say that I'm confident that everybody here, I know specifically Sarah and Will, like that transition document is nuts. If you want to look at their 101-week transition document, like Sarah had it down to it every day, like this is what you need to do type of thing. Devin had a very thorough one for myself as well. I have one for Emily that I was passed on from me from Devin. So I'm going to continue with that, and then take those extra 365 days to go back through my transition that I created this past year and just add to it, so it'll just be that much more thorough for next year.
Right, Mo, if you still have your question?
Well, yeah, just it's kind of the same question, but other than transition, what other plans do you have for clubs?
It's really very difficult for me to tell you overarchingly what I plan to do for clubs because, like I said, we try not to impose too much because everybody benefits from having the freedom that they have, and there's so much difference between the clubs, which is what makes all of our clubs makes the whole Telfair experience so rich, that all students here have the opportunity to join such different types of clubs and be in such different types of situations that the more council imposes on the clubs as a whole that kind of makes everybody fit into one mold, the less we lose that uniqueness that every single club holds and the experience that we have here at Telfair. That said, when I say that there's things that we want to put in place for the clubs, I don't mean like I want to tell every single club to do this. What I mean is that we need documents on our end that says, if this happens, what is the protocol? If this happens, what is the protocol? And then another thing that I wanted to implement is club reviews, just because it seems that every year so many things change with the clubs, and council is supposed to be overseeing all 13 clubs. It really was astounding to me how many things changed that I didn't know about it until after it happened. So those club reviews are something that just allows CéTSC to understand what's going on at the club, learn what the new president's goals are for the term, what they plan on changing and things like that, just to make sure that we're better informed.
So we're going to move on to Tanner's question. We have about a minute and a half left.
Cool. My question is pretty quick.
Yes.
You said that you would like to see the finances reformed at the AGM to better fund the clubs.
Yes.
Why did you not put forward a referendum question in the upcoming SFPO election to increase the Telfair student levy?
I actually looked into it, which I guess it doesn't really need to be public information. I did submit something to the University of Ottawa Southern Board, and it was disproved based on certain information that was missing that I just blatantly couldn't get. However, we are still looking at doing a referendum this year. There's ways that we can go about it that doesn't have to be in the SFUO one, but I still have to look into that. And the reason I know that is because the school told me. So my exec knows that we're going to come up with a plan to look to increase that funding this year, actually.
Cool.
Any 30-second questions? Yeah.
So apart from transition, what's like one new thing that you want to do next year?
Change from a constitution to policies and bylaws because it's legally regulated that we have to do that. Sounds fun, right? All good?
Yep.
All right, thanks guys. If you guys have any more questions, feel free to talk to me after.